The government's intervention in a complex dilemma with multiple nuances might end up backfiring.
Why don't people want to have children nowadays? Housing prices have dropped, so they should be more willing to have kids, right? Not necessarily. Look at Singapore. Buying a home there is cheap for locals, and the government even offers subsidies of thousands of dollars for having children. Yet, the birth rate continues to decline year after year. In Japan, housing prices also dropped significantly, making homes affordable, but the birth rate still doesn't rise. So why did the previous generation, despite being poor, want to have kids, while now, with better conditions, we don't want to? In the past, raising children was just about adding another plate at the table. As long as they didn't starve, it was fine. By the age of 7 or 8, they could already contribute to the work, and by 13 or 14, they were a full labor force. After having the third or fourth child, parents didn't need to worry much. Older siblings took care of the younger ones and helped with chores. Raising children was easy, and the return on investment was high. A true high-yield investment. But look at today. One child becomes the focus of the whole family, from pregnancy to prenatal checkups, childbirth, and hiring nannies. Those are just the initial expenses. Then come the costs of formula, diapers, tutoring, and buying a house in a good school district. You spend everything you have until they graduate from college, and then you start saving for their wedding. In the past, raising children meant creating assets. Now, raising children means creating debt. There's no comparison.
The other day, while searching for news to create a video for the channel, I came across a fascinating article from Newsweek. To summarize, the Chinese government is working on a bill that aims to simplify the marriage process while simultaneously making divorce more difficult. When I saw this news, I knew I had to bring this content to you. I think this will spark an interesting discussion, and I'm eager to hear each of your opinions and viewpoints. The goal of today's video is to explore why so many people are avoiding having children and whether this government intervention might end up being a misstep. In the end, could this actually become another obstacle rather than a solution to China's declining birth rate?
Nowadays, why are so many women reluctant to have children? Perhaps it's because people are realizing that having a child is a long-term commitment and a mental strain. I've been married for 5 years and haven't had a child yet. It's not that I'm completely against having children or that I'm infertile. I've been through tough times myself and want to protect the next generation. But I found that my own umbrella is still broken. So how can I be sure I'll be a good mother? My husband and I are both from the 90s, and before we turned 30, we bought a house in Shanghai through entrepreneurship and investment. But when it comes to having a child, we really struggled with the decision. I realized that the hardest part of having a child is not just getting pregnant. It's not just the physical toll of weight gain, stretch marks, hair loss, episiotomy, or urinary incontinence, or the sleepless nights and exhaustion after giving birth. Those are difficult and painful. But what's even harder and more painful is the lifelong commitment to the child, where both their successes and failures are the family's responsibility, and my responsibility. I sometimes ask myself if I can truly provide a stable environment and emotional support for the child. I can give birth to a child, and even though it's my child, they don't belong to me. They belong to themselves. Can I give up absolute control and truly respect their individuality? Can I handle their noise, immaturity, and rebellion while suppressing my own emotions and needs? Can I cope with a relationship where the effort is one-sided and tolerate that kind of parent-child dynamic? Or can I accept that, as a first-time mother, using the wrong methods might result in a child who causes me a lot of stress? Can I truly manage the roles of being myself and being a mother at the same time? It seems I don't have a definitive answer, but I'm not encouraging anyone not to have children. I believe every woman should understand what comes after having a child. Once you understand that, if you still feel strongly about it, then you're truly prepared for the commitment. I also hope to be truly ready one day. Have you thought about having children in the future? No, I don't want to. Even if I could bring a child into the world, I feel like I wouldn't have the ability to raise them well. I feel that it's not just about money. It's also about providing companionship and teaching many important life lessons. I think my mother had an enormous task raising me, so I feel like I wouldn't be able to do it well.
Many young people don't want to have children, and this is actually a sign of responsibility. The biggest reason they don't want to have kids is that they don't recognize the value of their own lives. If they see their lives as painful, full of suffering, and unhappy, why would they want to bring a child into the world to repeat that experience? Because they love children so much and want to be responsible, they tightly link the child's happiness with their own happiness. Therefore, if they cannot guarantee a relatively healthy and happy life for the child, they choose not to have children. I strongly disagree with the idea that today's young people who choose not to have children are selfish or unwilling to take responsibility. In fact, it is the opposite. The truly irresponsible and selfish ones are those who refuse to learn and can't even provide the basics like companionship, respect, and a relatively harmonious family environment. They end up having children hastily, causing a range of psychological issues, and then, when those children grow up, they pressure them to have children as well. Our generation doesn't want to continue this suffering and mental illness, which is why they're hesitant to proceed. By avoiding the perpetuation of this suffering, we are actually being responsible to society, to our own lives, and to the lives of future generations.
Do you know why more and more women are reluctant to have children? I just saw an expert suggesting that to increase the birth rate, the legal marriage age should be lowered to 18 years. I was stunned to see this online. Ladies, imagine an 18-year-old who has just graduated high school, lacking maturity and stability, being told they can now get married and have children. This is treating women as mere reproductive tools. I think, when researching how to increase the birth rate, we should consult female experts who have been through marriage, childbirth, and motherhood, rather than always listening to men who haven't experienced it. The reasons women don't want children are basically three. 1. Poverty. 2. Lack of job security and career advancement for women after childbirth. 3. Low involvement of men in child-rearing. First, we all know that raising a child is very expensive. From prenatal preparation, exams, and the cost of a nanny, to baby formula, early education, and then expenses for schooling and extracurricular activities until graduation. If you don't have a stable financial base, no responsible parent wants to bring a child into the world to suffer along with them. Second, professional development for women after childbirth is very challenging. If you have someone to help, the situation is somewhat better, as you can balance family and career. But if you don't have help and your economic situation is average, the mother will be the main caregiver until the child is 3. This means sacrificing a crucial period in your career and facing issues like discrimination and outdated skills upon returning to the workforce. Third, and most importantly, is the low involvement of men in raising children. Many men contribute only to conception and do not participate in child rearing. Some even believe that raising children and doing housework is solely the woman's responsibility. As a result, many women, even with husbands and fathers for their children, end up living in a marriage and parenting situation almost entirely alone, which is incredibly difficult. I don't know when this will change, but it's important to recognize that while the ability to have children is with women, the use of that ability and the associated rights depend on men's behavior. Isn't that true?
Nowadays, many people choose not to have children, but I tell you, 99% of those people will regret it later. I have 2 sons, and when I was younger, I also decided not to have children. However, after seeing a reflection that had a huge impact on me, I changed my mind. I had a boss who was approaching retirement age when I met him. He and his wife had decided, when they were young, to focus on fun and their careers without having children. But when he grew older and his wife could no longer have children, he couldn't just switch wives. He carried a subtle and deep sadness. He had a successful career, lots of money, and many properties, but he always felt that he didn't know what he was really striving for with all that effort. Many people today don't want to have children due to financial pressures and a desire to enjoy life, but they are confusing the concept of having children. Having children is not consumption. It's not just spending money. It's an investment, both in your own genes and in the future direction of your life. Some people might choose not to have children because they found an eternal purpose for their life, but most people don't reach that level and end up living a regular life. There is always an impulse to continue your own genes. This impulse isn't as strong when you're young but becomes more intense as you age. If you happen to have a career and don't find a successor, the sense of confusion about the future of your career can be much greater than for most people. Truly, seeing children as an investment is the right approach. Many people who have children view it as an investment, especially many business owners. And if you're thinking you're not a business owner and don't have money, don't worry. Over time, you may have money, and with children, you'll have more motivation. So why be afraid?
After analyzing the Chinese government's proposal to make marriage easier and divorce more complicated, it is important to reflect on how this intervention might impact the issue of birth rates. Many people today choose not to have children, citing reasons such as financial pressures and the desire to enjoy life. However, as we saw in the testimony, this choice may come with a sense of future regret. The idea that having children is an investment rather than just an expense could change how we view parenthood. While some find an eternal purpose in their lives without having children, most end up facing a void as they age and realize that their pursuits did not bring the meaning they expected. It is essential to consider that, despite the challenges and proposed changes, the decision to have or not have children is complex and personal. The law being discussed may not solve the birth rate issues and might, instead, create new obstacles. In the end, the real question is how each of us defines what it means to have a fulfilling life and what role children play in that. How do you view this issue? By trying to solve one problem, are we creating new challenges? The discussion is open, and your opinions are extremely valuable.